Can we all just agree that green is the most underutilized and underappreciated car color? Okay, thank you. This is the 2020 Toyota 86 Hakone Edition. It's a tribute to the Hakone Skyline in Japan, a beautiful tree-lined, green, mountainous driving road. And this car is a love letter to all the beautiful canyon mountain roads out here where enthusiastic drivers cut their teeth and really learn to enjoy the art of driving. So, let's go driving. After all, the 86 is and always has been a proper driver's car. Front engine, rear wheel drive, lightweight, manual transmission, limited slip differential. It's really on paper the most ubiquitous sports car this thing could possibly be. I mean, even the shape just screams sports car. Now, speaking of screaming, I know that both this engine and you people in the comments will be screaming, "But the engine! But the engine!" I know. The Subaru-based FA20 engine, that's a 2-liter flat 4, produces 205 horsepower and 156 pound-feet of torque. It revs at 7,500 RPM, which is pretty cool. I think this thing sounds pretty nice. It has enough of a boxer rumble from the exhaust, and the engine has a really nice intake or induction thrum. It's not as hard-edged as like a Honda VTEC, for example. But listen, it is a sort of nice metallic-y sound when you're on the throttle hard. Now, the trade-off is that all these nice mechanical noises when you're driving this car hard do make it kind of grumbly and just generally noisy around town. But no, it's not the noise that everyone complains about, nor is it the 6-speed manual transmission, which is very nice. It has a nice firm clutch and a nice chunky gear stick. But it's really the power. The power. It needs more power. It needs more power. Boo-hoo. That's what I hear everyone on Reddit and on the internet complain about. Now, these are obviously the complaints of people who don't know how to drive lightweight, small sports cars very well, because in the canyons, this thing is pretty much unmatched in terms of its cornering speed and agility, other than perhaps a Miata or a Cayman. Take that for what you will. Do I think the car needs more power? Yes and no. It really depends on the circumstance. There are occasions where I do wish it had maybe 20 to 30 more horsepower and 15 pound-feet of torque extra in the middle, but there are other times when I don't. So I really think you need to get in this car and drive it for yourself before you listen to what everyone on the internet says about this thing. Is it a bit slow? Well, kind of, but so is a Miata, but you don't hear anyone complaining about that. I mean, let's remember, at the end of the day, this thing does, high 14-second quarter miles, does 0 to 60 in like 6.5 seconds. It's not exactly a minivan. Well, I take that back. There are some quick minivans out there now. Watch out for those Siennas, folks. But of course, this is a small, lightweight, inexpensive sports car. You're not buying it to go drag racing. You're buying it to go places like this, to these beautiful winding roads, or occasionally to the racetrack. And that's really where this car shines. I mean, the level of agility and poise and precision this car offers from a stock car is honestly unreal. It's very flat in the corners for a stock suspension. Does it have body roll? Of course it does. All stock cars do. But it's really connected without being overly rough and tumble around the edges. It doesn't feel darty or nervous. It just feels hooked up and connected to what you're doing. And while it may not have a ton of power, this car does still have a helical limited slip diff at the back to put the power down. So if you're a hot boy and want to go drifting, you can do that too with this thing. Man, I would say confidence inspiring is the best way to describe the way this car drives in these tight winding roads. Because it is so small, you have a lot of leeway within your lane to kind of play around. Though I suppose for people who say this motor is gutless, doesn't make enough torque, I'll shift into 4th. All right, we're now in 4th gear, and no, we're still accelerating just fine. Thank you very much. Even in the infamous torque dip, Oh, did I mention the torque dip? Yes, for the engine nerds out there, the FA20 engine, this naturally aspirated model, has the infamous torque dip. Now, if you look at any dyno graph of these cars from the factory, they have a nice build-up of torque up to about 3,000 RPM. Then from like 3,500 to about 5,000, there's a huge drop, like 20 pound-feet of torque. That's called the torque dip. Now, the aftermarket can solve that with a set of headers and a good tune, but from the factory, for emissions reasons, they obviously can't do that, which is definitely a bummer. But I would say that with the more aggressive gearing of this car, in 2017 Toyota upped the final drive in this thing from a 4.1 to a 4.3. That makes all the gears a little bit quicker, and with a slight power bump as well. It just isn't that noticeable on the road. I think it might be noticeable on the racetrack if you're on a really high speed track, but just driving the canyons and around town, it's just not incredibly noticeable unless you really like lean on the car in a high gear around town and need that passing power. In which case, you have this awesome 6-speed stick, just downshift. It's funny, after driving all these cars, there are a few that always just stick out, and it's this car and the Mazda Miata as just being fun. They are fun first and foremost, and that's really special because a lot of cars just aren't that fun nowadays. They may have great performance and great traction, great grip, and blah, 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 and great acceleration, but they aren't fun like these two cars are. And I think that's something that needs to be rewarded because making fun cars is not profitable for these car manufacturers. Toyota is not making tons of bank on the 8.6, neither is Subaru with the BRZ. But the fact that they came together and made this car, despite its few flaws that the internet commentary it says it has, I'm glad this car exists. I'm glad cars like this can exist. I think the way this car drives is pretty much in a league of its own. I mean, just because there aren't that many lightweight, inexpensive, small sports cars out there now. It is pretty much this thing in the Miata. Now, for about 30 grand, you can absolutely hop into a higher performing Mustang or Camaro with their entry-level 4-cylinder engines, and those are also really fun cars. I actually do recommend you check out things like the Mustang High Performance Pack EcoBoost and the Camaro Turbo 1LE. Those are both really cool little cars, but they are not nearly as small and agile and ultimately as fun as these cars. They're more competent and faster, but they aren't necessarily more fun and more better, I can't even speak, in this canyon road than this car. I will say that in the dynamics department, there is one thing this Hakone Edition is clearly missing. It's one that really bothers me personally. Now, I love this car. I love green cars. Look, I'm wearing my matching green shirt to prove it. I wanted to go out and buy one of these. I'm not even kidding. I was on Auto Trader earlier this week looking at buying one of these cars, and that's when I found out that unfortunately the Hakone Edition is missing one crucial option. Now, despite being a special edition, this isn't actually fully equipped with every cool feature and option that you can get with the 8.6, and it's actually missing the most important option or package, in my opinion, for these cars, and that's the performance package. With the performance package, you crucially, for people like me, you get bigger brakes front and rear, updated dampers, and I guess not crucial at all, but different wheels. Now, for me, I know for a fact, if I bought one of these cars, I'd be taking it to the track all the time. That's what I do. This thing is so much fun to drive. I know on the track, it is an absolute blast. Look at my TRD 8.6 review on the racetrack to prove it. These cars are super fun. So for me, if I bought one of these cars, I would have to have the performance package with the bigger brakes. These standard brakes, I've been told they're fine on the racetrack, but I know for me, I'm a brake killer. I'm really hard on brakes. I know that I like to pound on cars lap after lap after lap, and I would want the bigger brakes. So it is kind of a misstep that this special edition is actually somewhat decontented compared to a Toyota 8.6 GT model where you can add on the bigger brakes and the upgraded dampers and all that for like, I think it's like $1,200. That's a miss to me. It seems like if you're gonna make this 1 year special edition, give it all the special parts. However, while this is one of the best driving cars money can buy, I think, there is more to the car than just driving it. There's a couple new things in here for 2020. Toyota has been continually tinkering with the 8.6 since it came out in 2013 as the Scion FRS. It seems like every few years they're updating and tinkering and tweaking things. Now I know the big key takeaways are the suspension updates that they've added over the years, shock tuning, different sway bars, things like that, and the slight power bump in 17. But there are some tweaks in here, so I'm going to pull over and we can talk about those. Man, this thing's so fun. So certainly, the exterior of the Hakone Edition with its gorgeous green paint and bronze wheels is definitely part of the equation of what makes this thing a special edition model. But the other special features are in here in the interior. So let me show you around. First is that for 2020, all 8.6 models get an updated infotainment screen. Now at first glance it looks really basic and the audio quality initially seems lacking. However, this new setup is both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capable, which is a huge upgrade. My gripes with the audio went away once music was played through either system, and in general, it does make the most of the new screen. That's a huge bonus in terms of usability. The second thing you need to know is that the Hakone Edition has the best interior fitted to any 8.6 model ever. It takes ideas from the 8.6 GT trim with Alcantara throughout, but swaps out the plain black motif for a more visually appealing brown and tan color palette. From there are additional touches of tan leather on key touch points like the door cards, seat inserts, armrest, and the lower dash. It all feels very special, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out the fact that, for whatever reason, Toyota kept the standard steering wheel. With all the nice touches happening in here, going the extra mile and wrapping the wheel with Alcantara, or even partially wrapping it with Alcantara, would have been a really simple upgrade to complete the theme and make the car feel that much more special. After all, other than the seats, the steering wheel is the one thing you touch the most in a car, and having done an Alcantara would notably elevate the experience. The Hakone Edition Flare with the green exterior and tan leather interior, along with the tweaks for the 2020 model year, have made this 8.6 the most friendly, most luxurious, and best driving road-going version of the 8.6 to date. However, some curious packaging choices, like the inability to get the performance package brakes and dampers, is a bit of a mystery for this special edition model. However, the exclusion of some of those features means the $30,000 price point is extremely agreeable for a car that looks and feels this special. So, if you're looking for the ultimate daily driver Toyota 8.6, this is it. Get the Hakone Edition. It looks and feels very special. However, for my track day friends out there, definitely go for an 8.6 GT trim with the performance package box ticked. You'll be very happy that you did.